and welcome to My Counselor Live. My name is Brittany East, and if you have ever wondered what the ability or even the inability to create a secure attachment as a child affects your adult life, then this session is for you today. We have the pleasure of being joined by one of the MCO counselors, Carrie McCormick, and she's ready to dive into her thoughts on this topic. But before we do that, Carrie, would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself for those viewers who may not know you yet?
Sure. I'm Carrie. I live around Nashville area, Nashville, Tennessee. I have been a part of MyCounselor.Online for about a year now, and really love what I do. I get to meet with folks from all over and just have a joy and passion for this work. I am married. I have two little girls that are a lot of fun and a lot of energy going on there. And so that's kind of my other job as well, is just, being a mom to them. So.
No, you're totally right. It's a full-time job. I have two little ones as well. It is, it's another full-time job. Well, yes. I'm excited to go into your article then, because attachment, I think parents, that's a hot topic, I feel like, among parents a lot of times, like that word. Mm-hmm. So your article title today is Attachment, What Is It and Why Is It Important? And before we go into, what really attachment is, what inspired you to write this article?
Well, attachment is basically the foundation to our human connection, which is highly important. And so it's something that I feel passionate about. It's just something that if we could kind of understand what it is and bring awareness to ourselves and, how we are connected or not connected to others, and what that, is, how that's showing up in our lives, in a negative way, then we can really pursue it and gain what we need to move into a place of just having satisfying relationships.
No, that's great. And so when you wrote this article, like, who was this article written for then? Like, what kind of audience did you have in mind for this?
Well, it could apply to everyone, but really it's probably going to be the person that just is feeling a little maybe restlessness or dissatisfaction in their relationships, struggling with a relationship. Maybe it's a mom and who really wants to do, raise their children well and have the tools they need to do that and kind of gain awareness in how to do that. Maybe it's someone who really wants to, have a great romantic relationship or marriage. Someone who wants to really heal and repair, grow in just some family relationships. So it can be a wide audience, but maybe the person who's attracted to this is just really seeking in some way.
Yeah. So basically anyone who wants to have a healthy relationship is kind of like who this is for. So what's like a broad definition of attachment?
So it's basically the way in which we bond with other people. And the bond is kind of like, what connects us to another person. And that connection, a good connection involves, sharing emotion with someone, feeling like you can be vulnerable with someone and that be safe. Feeling like you can trust other people, like having this kind of internal sense of I can trust someone else, with my emotion, with my vulnerability, with myself. And that those kind of all, are involved in what we call attachment.
Awesome. So in your article, you describe 3 different styles of attachment. Can you explain, do you mind breaking down those 3 different styles and explaining what they are?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I do want to, clarify there would be, first of all, there's secure attachment of what I just named, when there's a sense of secure attachment, we really have no conflict with being able to imagine that I can go to someone and share my emotion and feel okay, like bringing my vulnerability and feeling like I can trust people. Like that would be a secure attachment. And then the three other styles that would just be the other would be not secure, would be avoidant, anxious or ambivalent, and then disorganized attachment. And we would call those styles. They're really just the way that you, in a patterned kind of way, this might show up just in a habitual way, might be a theme in your life and your relationships. It might show up in one of these three kind of styles.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So I could go into just a little description of what they are.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So if we think about the avoidant attachment, maybe the avoidantly attached person, that person would typically just avoid connection with others on a level. They might feel like really it feels good and right to just be self-sufficient and feel like you can just do things by yourself and don't really need others. It may be hard to reach out and ask for help from others. And it just, and that might be your comfort zone. But on the other end of that, you might find yourself just feeling lonely or disconnected from people. And that would be the conflict there, you know. And some people might feel that, and some people might not be there yet and feel that loneliness. But yeah, so that's kind of a brief description of avoidant. The next one, anxious, ambivalent attachment. This would be more of a, there might be this kind of restlessness there with someone that you're in relationship with, a friendship that's important to you, a partner, a husband, a wife, you know, a boyfriend, a girlfriend. There might be this sense of just wondering, like, are they really there for me? You might feel like that you really have to pursue that person and seek them out to really get reassurance over and over again that they are there for you. And you kind of seek this feeling of just needing to know that they love you, care for you, they're still there, and that will haunt you. I mean, that will come up over and over again. And so it's just kind of this pattern that repeats itself. And there may be this kind of ongoing anxious feeling inside of just not being able to regulate that anxiety. And so that would be just a little snippet of that kind of anxious, ambivalent attachment. And then there's a disorganized attachment, which is typically the result of trauma, of just trauma with a caregiver, which is really the most difficult, you know, kind of heartbreaking, kind of devastating place to be, because there is this sense of, you know, in relationship of, gosh, I need this person, I want this person, kind of feeling that way, and then quickly could come to this point of like, no, I don't need you, I don't want you, you know, maybe go away from me. And that's the result of just an experience with a caregiver that was supposed to be a person's source of safety and comfort, and then also was the source of fear and possibly abuse and things. So it's a real difficult conflict, you know, painful conflict to be in. So that is just kind of a nutshell description of those different styles.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it helps to better understand that. So when do you feel like most people form their style of attachment? Is there like a age range that we kind of do this, or is it learned? Is it because of like we're missing something? Like what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. Because I think I put in the article, usually when we hear that word, you might think of a child, you know, a child-parent relationship. And so it's really that this attachment foundation is in us, wired in us, from the get-go, from day one. God made us to want to and need to seek other people out for comfort, for safety, for just to be dependent. You think of a baby who's highly dependent on their mom initially, and dad, too. But yeah, so it's there from the beginning. And so the way in which the caregiver is able to respond to the needs of dependency, with the infant and the child and the feelings that the child has, that's where this style is formed. And it never goes away. I mean, it's formed as a child. It's there from day one, and that wired in, piece of us just doesn't go away. It's always in there. And so this need to feel this, sense of being attached and connected to others is just, it's always there. So.
Thank you. Yeah, that makes like kind of understanding too. I mean, especially me being a mom, but even just me being as a woman who wants a husband or wants friendships, and just trying to understand like how all of this stuff that happens when we're so much younger can affect, all these adult relationships with basically everyone in my life.
Yes.
So why do you think it's important to understand attachment, or even like the attachment style that like someone has?
Well, it can bring, first of all, if you're feeling just this dissatisfaction or this restlessness or this sense of loneliness, or just something's not, right or okay in your relationships, you're struggling somewhere, this is really the place you can go to understand yourself and understand what is, what is your style of attaching to others, and what may be the barrier to getting what you need. And as well, it's just so important to our sense of safety and our sense of just being okay in this world. Especially just kind of the world we live in. There's a lot that goes on that is scary and that we can't control, and in life. And the way we really get through that is through relationships and feeling like you have a safe other to go to, to feel like you're okay, and really to be able to flourish, and grow in your life. Attachment, it brings this sense of resiliency. When you do go through things in life that are difficult and hard or tragic, have this place of attachment helps you get through that, and be resilient. So yeah, that is a few things there. I could go on and on.
Really important reason. I mean, I feel like, even resiliency, I feel like that's something I'm even trying to teach my children at really young age. But as an adult, I feel like we're having to relearn, especially with COVID. I feel like I've had to learn like new ways to like cope and like be more resilient. So even understanding that attachment, I feel like is really helpful, because I feel like COVID tested a lot of relationships and changed a lot of them.
Yes.
So do you feel like those different styles of attachment maybe came out more because of like what happened with COVID and everything?
Yes. I mean, that's such a great example. I think the reality of people not being able to connect with each other, to see each other, to have the sense of being with, really was really disorienting. And, and I think even now, I think of course, we'll continue to see just the repercussions and consequences of that. But that I think really highlights how important it is to have other people to gather with, to be with, to know, like, that you're not alone. You're not alone in this world. And also there's a sense of not being emotionally alone. We need this sense of other people being able to understand what we're feeling, and that being okay. And so yeah, COVID is a great example.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to the viewers who are just beginning to understand like how attachment relates to their lives?
Well, I would say that you are just um, embarking on a courageous journey because it takes courage to really overcome this. If you identify with one of these attachment styles, it takes courage to really, um, you know, pursue this journey to change that and grow through that. And so I just want to acknowledge that, first of all, and that you're not alone in that as well. And I would say, just get to know your story. Go to the places of your past where in these important relationships you were in, and really try to understand, remember, what they were like, what it was like for you. I think, getting a therapist can really be helpful in that way, just to help reflect to you and understand just some of those experiences that you went through. I would say don't minimize what you're feeling. And this is super important. Make it a priority, just like your body needs food and water to flourish, to be healthy. Your heart, your spirit, your soul, your emotions, you need just to feel safe and secure in relationships to flourish. I don't know if you have seen the movie Castaway, or other people who are watching might have seen that movie, and I just watched it recently, so that's why it comes to mind. But if you remember Tom Hanks on the island, and he had Wilson, right? Like, he created Wilson of volleyball to be his attachment figure. Like, he needed another person to survive on this island, to come out alive. And also the memory of his girlfriend. He would look at that picture often. And so I think that's a great just kind of visual to understand how vital it is to really have just some relationships that you can feel good and safe, and this sense of just a constant, that person or these people are there. So yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. I think that's a perfect analogy for like how important it is if this person on the island had to literally create a friend and do that.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Carrie, for your article and just for going in deeper into attachment, and just, I think, making us, like, at least for me, even realize like how important it is to understand like how I attach to people, and maybe like what affected my attachment to people. And I think you're right. Like, just even taking those first steps to understand all of that is super brave. And so I'm really grateful that you wrote this article for us to be able to understand it more. Speaking of being on an island, we're going into our trending topic. And today we're talking about a digital detox, which kind of like, I feel like in today's world, being connected digitally is how you're together than when you're disconnected digitally. I almost feel it's almost like being on an island, but I'll let you, you're the therapist, I'll let you kind of do your take on it. What is a digital detox?
Yeah, well, it's just basically refraining from digital platforms for a while. Just your smartphone, your social media platforms, just giving yourself a break from the ways that you are wired up, digitally, to the world and to other people.
So do you think it's just kind of, when you say digital detox, is it just social media, or do you feel like it's also like games on your phone, or like apps or whatever, or is it, or what's your take on that then?
Yeah, I would say all of that. Yeah, for sure. But it's like this digital world, is this whole other world in and of itself. And I believe it's just kind of putting that, like stepping away from that world for a given significant, amount of time, significant enough to matter, to make a difference. amount of time, just to give your brain a break from the usage of that.
So besides giving your brain a break, which I mean, I feel like my brain needs a break too, but why do you think a digital detox like is helpful? Like, why should someone like consider that?
Yeah. Well, I came across some statistics on this, and there's also, I don't know if you've heard, other viewers out here may have heard this tagline, but it's disconnect to reconnect is kind of the tagline that's used around this topic. But I came across these statistics. I think I got this from digitaldetox.com. It's a great website, but it says that 53% of people wake up at least one time every night to check their phone. The average person checks their phone 150 times a day.
My goodness.
And then 26% of car accidents are caused by phone use. So
wow, that's scary. I mean, I've seen it. I mean, I've been driving and like I've seen people like the weaving. I mean, I've heard it being compared to like drunk driving essentially.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, that in of itself, it just kind of goes to show how, I mean, we all see it, of course, and we all do it. But just how hooked up we are to this device, all the time.
So what kind of people do you think would benefit from doing a digital detox?
I mean, everyone. I think it's like, I'm not the most kind of connected person digitally, but I still cannot get away from it. There's still so many pulls to it in your phone. You have all these apps and you use your apps to manage your life and do things, and you connect with people virtually. And so it's everywhere. It's all around us. But it doesn't have to be, of course, like our single mode of contact with the world and with others. And so, and maybe it's someone that's just struggling in their, maybe someone who's just feeling really anxious or depressed, or feeling just really kind of self-consumed in some way. Of course, those are broad symptoms, and there could be a number of things that are creating that, but it's surely, known that just being too wired up can create some of these feelings, some of these symptoms. So yeah.
Like just those, it's amazing to think that just disconnecting from this phone, which I mean, to be honest, I think, I'm trying to, I got my first phone when I was 15, and it was like to call people. You know what I mean? It wasn't even like
to do your whole life.
Like now. And older kids, I'm like, literally, it is my life. It's like you lose your phone, you're like, well,
lost.
Nothing's getting done. Like,
yeah. Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Okay. Well, our last topic of the show is, of course, our viewer Q&A, which we love. We love to hear your questions. We want to hear what's going on in your life. And when we share these questions, they're always shared anonymously. These are submitted ahead of time so that we can look through them and pick out the ones for this show. But if you would like to submit a question to be answered on a future show, please go to MyCounselor.Online/ask, and we will be sure to include it in a future episode. So Carrie, the first question that a viewer wanted to have a counselor answer is, I feel like the church is ignoring singles, especially singles over the age of 50 who have gone through divorce or the death of a spouse. The church spends a lot of time investing in married couples, but people like me are feeling overlooked. What should I do?
Yeah. Well, at first, just hearing that question, my heart, goes out to you and others that, the person that wrote this, and then others that are in the same situation, because it sounds, from what I'm hearing, is that if there was especially with the loss of a spouse or divorce, like there's a void there of needing going back to attachment and having that person in your life, that constant person. There's a void there that's needing to be filled. And so I just hear just the pain in that and the longing to just feel connected to others. And so, of course, pay attention to that. That's valid and certainly needs to be heard. I think, if you could find others that feel the same, that share that pain with you, could be a start and helpful. And even finding, maybe if it's your church that you attend where you can't really grab the attention of others about this need, maybe it's just finding someone in the church, community, that can hear you and validate what you're feeling, validate what you need, as this is legitimate, and see if you can get people to come alongside you to, join with you in that search for some place of connection and support for, people over 50 who are single. And if not in the faith community, there's also just, I don't know where, you live, this may be kind of challenging, but where you are, but I know there's different kinds of support groups that have different names, Celebrate Recovery being one. It's can be kind of a general place of support, for everyone, but, find some kind of group where you can go and just be known and connected to others. That's really important. So, I validate that, and I just hope that you could find other people that could validate that as well.
Thanks, Carrie. And for our second question for today, Carrie, our viewer says, my mother doesn't respect my boundaries. She's carried the abuse she went through as a girl to me without even realizing it. What should I do?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it sounds like it's really distressing to be in this relationship. I hear that, number one. And if I were sitting, one-on-one with you, I might ask some questions just to kind of understand where you are in the relationship, and maybe what you've tried in the past that hasn't worked, and maybe you haven't tried yet. But I would wonder, what is it in the relationship that you feel like you need control back from? Would it be like your time, your wishes, your desires, your choices, your, number of, fill in the blank. I would wonder that. And I would wonder, okay, have you tried to really place, no is a typical word for a boundary, to say, hey, I'm not willing to do that, or I don't want to do that, or, I have a different choice. And have you been able to say that yet? And if so, how does it go when you say that? What do you receive back? Do you get just kind of a protest or anger or guilt, or, I might wonder that. I might wonder, if you're feeling like, hey, I put a boundary there and it's not respected and seen or noticed, or it's just kind of bulldozed. Have you just tried to implement just some, I use the word consequence in the way of like, hey, if you can't hear me or understand what I need in this, then I'm going to have to go do something else, or I'm going to have to make this choice, or I'm going to have to kind of just back away right now, or whatever it might mean that you're going to do in response to that, that boundary not being respected. And so I might also encourage just to identify, and typically it can be helpful, I should say, to just get the help of, a therapist or a group, or someone who can, a mentor, someone who can help you identify what you're feeling, in the relationship, and identify what your needs are, if that feels hard for you to know and identify. And that will help you determine what kind of actions you need to take. And then I would say as well, just some of just diagnostically understanding the relationship, what do you want to preserve of this relationship? Um, how do you want to keep and foster and protect this relationship? Because that would be important in just how you go about establishing, and communicating your boundaries and what you need. If you want to continue to have a flourishing relationship, and then, implementing boundaries in love is an important strategy, but you need support to be able to do that, and just a place for your own feelings and needs to be heard. So
yeah, thank you. It seems like regardless, people just need, like, not just people, but like anyone who's like having that struggle with their feeling heard, just finding that safe place to be.
yeah, for sure.
Makes sense. Well, Carrie, thank you so much for coming on My Counselor Live today. I've really enjoyed getting to hear your thoughts and just your passion for wanting people to feel safe, wanting people to feel heard, and wanting people to be able to heal through their relationships, like how God really wanted people to have is like healthy relationships and to feel safe. For anyone watching, don't forget to submit your questions to MyCounselor.Online/ask. And wherever you're watching from today, whether that's YouTube or Facebook, don't forget to subscribe and follow us on any other social media platform of your choosing, unless you're doing a digital detox, in which case take a moment. You can follow us later. On Facebook, you can find us on facebook.com/lovemycounselor. On Instagram, our handle is @lovemycounselor. And on YouTube, we are youtube.com/MyCounselor.Online Christian Counseling. We are looking forward to talking with you next week, and have a great week.